It's fun. It's wild. It's Dad's Gone Crypto.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto. It's another week. Yes, it's an exciting week for me because the Springboks beat England in the Rugby World Cup and we're through to the finals. We played like shit. So if you're an English fan out there, I apologized. But we did beat you by 1 point and we'll take it. Thank you very much. But yeah, geez, it's been absolutely crazy. And the finals are coming up this Saturday, which is tomorrow. And yeah, it's going to be one hell of a game. So I might be crawling a sports field. But yeah, on to the show, guys. Enough about rugby. On to the show. What has been happening in the markets, and do you have that FOMO that everyone's telling you about what the price of Bitcoin is, and you feel that shit, should I have gone in, didn't I, am I too late, has the ship sailed? Well, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, and also some important news that's coming through, hopefully before the end of this year, but hopefully sooner rather than later, that is a game changer for Bitcoin once it gets approved. And some people say it's been approved already, but we'll get into that. What is an ETF? What is happening? What does it mean for Bitcoin? What does it mean for you as an average mom and pop, right? Or an average newbie Kryptonian, or for a veteran Kryptonian? So we'll dive deep into that. But before we get there, Ryan, how's your week been?
Oh, good. We speaking of sports, my Cleveland Browns over here, NFL football, had a squeaked out a win by 1 point on on
Oof.
Sunday. So that was a fun one, a back and forth insane game.
Yeah.
So our starting quarterback got knocked out, and we're already short our starting running back, and then our second string running back got knocked out. So it was a
Oh,
crazy game, but
jeez. Where's
it
the
was
defense?
oh yeah, it
They're
was awesome
sleeping.
seeing them though. Seeing them actually win one by 1 point there. So the last 2 weeks they've managed to squeak by,
Okay.
so by 1 or 2 points. So yeah,
The
having
records
fun with that.
the records say a win's a win. They don't ask you by how
E-
much. So
exactly,
who came second in the 100-meter sprint when they broke the world record? Who knows?
exactly.
Exactly. All right, Ryan. So the market's been bubbling. October is generally a time, when we share information on that, of course, we piggyback on the shoulders of some giants. And there's a trend out there. And there's, say a trend, there's a calculation that they work on. What happens during each cycle? Does it repeat itself? Is this market repeating itself? And you kind of make assumptions based on that. Traditionally, October, based over the last couple of cycles, is kind of a bullish, segment. So we were like, is it going to be? Is it not going to be? What's going to happen? And all of a sudden, there was a bit of help from the news. We did mention it last week, but it seems to be bubbling nicely in October. But Ryan, what seems to be happening in the market at the moment that's causing this little bit of volatility?
Well, I mean, I think it's time, right? I mean, the bull market's right around the corner. Maybe we're getting that. I think we might be getting what we've all been waiting for here, which is just a little more excitement in the market, and we're starting to push higher. Some critical levels have been hit, and we seem to be holding them. So we'll see. I mean, I think there's always a chance, we could go down and retest some of these lower levels. But I honestly, I think we're pushing past, and I think we're ready to actually get started in these early stages of the bull market here, and start seeing Bitcoin start making some fun moves. And then we'll get into it a little later here, but after Bitcoin starts making its moves, then the real fun starts. So hopefully
Ryan, tell
that's where
me
the
the
where we're at here.
these candles and lower levels. They say that Bitcoin hasn't hit one of their lower levels. I think it's around the 14,000 mark. Does this mean that if it doesn't test that or doesn't come down to that or retrace back to that, that it could push all the way up and then it can come all the way back down? Or if the ship has sailed, that it won't retest that mark? Do they always retest that mark? Do they have to retest that mark? Or,
No, definitely not. I mean that there's nothing that says we have to go back down to that high 14, low 15, wherever it was that we bottomed out at. And at this point, I would say it's probably pretty unlikely. I mean, there's Bitcoin can do anything. I mean, there's no crystal ball, right? I mean, if World War III breaks out tomorrow, who the hell knows? I mean, we might see those low levels again and get all the way, lower. But as far as the current market conditions look, it definitely doesn't look like we're going to go back down there. Okay. Maybe we're going to test some of these other lows in like the 25 area or somewhere in that neighborhood. But yeah, I doubt, unless there's a major, black swan event again, kind of how, COVID just dropped us way down back in 2019 there, unless there's something that hits like that, I kind of doubt, or was that 2020? Regardless, yeah. That black swan brought us way down. So unless there's something like that, I kind of doubt we're going to, really see those really lows again. I think we might, be on for some upward movements here, which would be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, last week we basically said to you guys that there was some news out in the market that some newbie is a CoinGraph or one of the news.
I think it was Cointelegraph that actually
Cointelegraph
mistake of tweeting that, or maybe it was a mistake. Maybe
not. Yeah. So they say it was a mistake, and they say he was fired. They blame some newbie. But I think just based on this current week's news, that perhaps that might have been true, right? Which means the higher powers still wanted him to be fired for leaking information too soon, right? Because, there's some cool things that have just happened. So everybody's waiting for an ETF to be approved, right? I think there are 13 plus pending ETFs that the SEC have to approve, and BlackRock is obviously the big one and waiting for them to be approved. Then all of a sudden in the news, Bitcoin just goes crazy. But why? Right? Because they found out that the ticker for BlackRock, or the supposed ticker for BlackRock, was approved by the NASDAQ. Now, you can't just say, oh, let me just come up with a name. Let me just go get it. The paperwork has to be in. You have to file. You have to be certain that you've got that in order for it to be approved. Because what they do, they have to kind of buy some stock to get it sorted out, to get it set up. And they're going to do the same thing with Bitcoin. They're going to buy Bitcoin to set up the ETFs to allow the transactions to start happening, and apparently that it's the key giveaway. So now people are speculating that this is what's happening, and the market's starting to rally. And they say 4 days from now, that it's because they're generally based on previous assumptions that it's 6 days after the ticker has been released that the news breaks out. So we'll know in 4 days what's going to happen, right? So
yeah, very cool. I mean, it's quite possible that these movements have been made because BlackRock has started seeding that investment. So we'll see. That would be excellent news.
Yeah. And then it's not typically BlackRock. So when you start an ETF fund, it's not necessarily they go buy millions and millions of Bitcoin straight out of the bat, right? They kind of buy enough just to set up the contract. But if they know that they're getting Bitcoin at these crazy cheap prices, they might as well be buying a hell of a lot. And they could be causing the price volatility, right? Because if they front run the other 13 ETFs that are trying to get pushed through, 13 plus pushed through in the US, they're going to have prices, and their customers are going to have prices ahead of them. So it's a race at the moment. And when the race is on, and you've got these race horses, they don't think about left and right, they think about straight. They'll just grab as much as they can as quick as possible, and then they'll sort out everything later. And we hope that happens. Let the banks and the ETF funds all fight over it.
Oh, for sure.
All right, so let's backtrack a little bit, Ryan, and let's basically cover what is an ETF. We talk about it, right? But let's chat about what is a spot ETF. I'll go through a little bit of that, and then let's figure out what is a future ETF, because they're very, very important, and it affects Bitcoin in a positive and a negative way, right? So a ETF is a financial term or a spot price of an asset that refers to the market price, as opposed to a future price, which is determined by future contracts. Ryan will get into more of that a little bit later. So when you buy an asset on spot price, all right, you're actually buying the current market price. Bitcoin is at this price, you are buying it at that price. So an ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. And it's an investment fund that's on the stock exchange, so the NASDAQ in this case, and it operates similar to stocks. Right, so if you're thinking about all your stocks and how that works, there's no difference, right? They're designed to track the performance of a specific indicator, sector, commodity, currency, and other assets. ETFs can hold a mixture of stocks, bonds, commodities. In this case, it's Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is now becoming accessible to the masses because NASDAQ is one of the biggest exchanges. It's now easier for institutions, for moms and dads, for companies, for everybody to get a piece of it. It is difficult for them to go through the regulatory processes, doing it behind the scenes, buying, on an exchange or a decentralized exchange. It's too risky for them because the SEC might find loopholes in there and shut them down later on. So now that the NASDAQ is governed by the SEC, governed by regulators, governed by all these things, it's now time. All right. People feel confident enough to get in. So, Ryan, what is a future ETF?
So a futures ETF, which, futures ETFs have been around for a while now. And the biggest difference is, futures are on paper. So, I mean, to give you like a real definition, a futures ETF, a futures exchange traded fund, it's an ETF that gains exposure to its target assets. And that's, again, this isn't just Bitcoin. Its targets assets can be commodities, indexes, or stocks. But it gains these through the use of futures contracts. So futures contracts they're standardized agreements to buy and sell an asset at a predetermined price on a specified future date. So that's why they're called futures, because it's a contract to buy or sell out in the future. And again, I mean, futures ETFs are in all markets, and they've been in the crypto market for quite a while now. It's not nearly as impactful as a spot ETF, and obviously we'll get to that in a little while here. But so basically, a futures ETF, instead of directly owning the asset like you would with a spot ETF, so directly owning Bitcoin, gold, oil, a futures ETF, it owns futures. You own futures contracts for the asset. So it allows the ETF to reflect the price movements of the asset without actually physically holding the asset. So because these ETFs deal with futures, their performance, it can be influenced not only by the change in the underlying asset spot price, but also by futures market dynamics. So, I mean, these type of market dynamics, that includes factors like contango, which contango is typically a condition of a bullish market and where people think prices and demand are going to go up in the future. Another is backwardation, which is basically a bearish market condition where investors think that prices and demand are going to fall in the future. Contango is more common and basically it's bullish, right? So these factors, they impact the returns of futures ETFs, and sometimes they impact very significantly. So some examples, like commodity ETFs are a typical example of futures ETFs. For instance, an oil futures ETF might not hold any physical oil, but instead it holds oil future contracts to mimic the price movements of oil.
So, Ryan, okay, so futures, you don't actually physically hold the shares, right? So if I'm a macroeconomist or someone that works with data and I'm forecasting that every 12 years there's a famine that happens within the crops, right? And I know it's approaching the next 4 years. So I take a contract out saying that I'm going to be bearish during that period based on data. So is that typically what a futures is? So I'm expecting the market to go down based on my assumption, but of course I'm an institution and I've got millions and billions of people putting money behind me so I can invest, and then and I'm hoping that goes down. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you're buying a futures contract, you're basically making a bet as to whether the price is going to go up or it's going to go down.
Yeah, so basically, you're speculative, and it allows you to obviously capitalize on that speculation. And I think this is where macroeconomists get it right. They see the bigger picture, they see how the world's unfolding, and they take bets and hedge their money in those new future technologies or future commodities. And that's how they kind of make their money. They either get it right or incredibly right or incredibly wrong. But it does affect the price as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of the big challenges with futures is that they expire, right?
Yeah.
So you're buying,
Yes.
you're making a bet as to when this is going to happen, right? So your futures contract has an expiration date, and one way around that is through rolling contracts. So basically, to maintain exposure to the asset, an ETF rolls its contracts, or can roll its contracts, which means selling expiring future contracts and buying new ones. So the process can introduce it. The biggest problem with it is that it can introduce additional costs, and it could be gains as well. So in markets that are experiencing the two new terms we just learned, contango or backwardation, it can produce costs or gains in depending on what type of markets it's in there. So another challenge, there's definitely tax implications for futures contracts. They have unique tax implications as compared to like spot type contracts, because in some jurisdictions, the gains and losses from futures contracts are treated differently than the gains and losses from traditional investments. So definitely have to look at the tax man and all the rules and regulations before getting into any investments. But futures definitely can be a bit more complicated.
Yeah. So what does it mean for the market, right? So think about it in this way, right? You've got your endowment policies, you've got your 401k, you've got your pension fund, you've got unit trusts, you've got all these products that your financial broker, all right, tries to sell you, all right. There's very few people that get it right, brokers that get it right. That's why crypto, I think, also began. But let's just say your broker, you love your broker, you give him money every month in the hope that you can retire one day. But now, all of a sudden, right, based on the SEC approving this and based on it's coming about, you are now able to phone up your broker and just say, hey, buy me some Bitcoin, buy me some unit trust. Can I add a portion of my unit trust to Bitcoin? Or can I add a portion of my portfolio to overseas or overseas Bitcoin or whatever? So it now allows you in a financial way that's regulated by your governments across the world to purchase Bitcoin easily, right? So it's basically a Bitcoin ETF is backed by actual physical Bitcoin. So they have to buy the Bitcoin. So you can't, no speculative stuff. It's not like buy this and pay it later. It's not like the US dollar backed by gold, where it's not actually backed by gold, it's backed by nothing. So it's one for one. If I want to put money in, I've got to buy a Bitcoin. What does that mean? There are only 21 million Bitcoins, and half of them apparently are missing. And people lose wallets, and people get hacked, and people whatever. So there is only a certain amount of Bitcoin. It's not this printing press that just keeps going. So what does it mean when the world switches on the ETFs all across the world, right? There's the demand. Because now the governments say, the banks say, the SEC says Bitcoin is okay. It's now regulated, right? So when that goes, they're like, well, I want a piece of that. I've always wanted a piece of that. I didn't know how to get into it. I was too scared. And what does it mean to Bitcoin? All right, think of that little rocket into the moon. As the demand increases, simple. As the demand for a product, the price goes up. So is it unfathomable to say Bitcoin can reach $100,000? Just if there's demand. Think about it, all right? Will there be demand in South Africa, my country? Will there be demand in America? Will there be demand in Italy, which is the crypto country at the moment that has most crypto on their balance sheets? If Pakistan comes on board, if China comes on board, if Europe comes on board, right? They all want a piece of Bitcoin. So it's now available, all right, legally. So what do you think is going to happen? All right, so I'm not going to speculate for you, but just just think about it for a moment. So obviously the accessibility, Bitcoin as a spot ETF becomes more easier, available to, literally on a phone call away, right? Liquidity and price. I was reading an article today, and Alex Becker made millions in crypto and some software developer, and that he says, just don't be surprised if the Bitcoin, isn't approved by the SEC because it's basically, corrupt and it's been manipulated, FTX manipulated, everybody manipulated. Sure. All right. When there's a lot of volatility in the market, there are big players manipulating price. Sure. But as you have more players in the market and as the price shoots up through the roof, that chance of manipulation is smaller, right? As opposed to these big ups and these big downs, it'll balance out, right? There's no product on this planet that's not manipulated. Come on, all right? Crypto is trying to solve that, but in some way, everything is kind of manipulated. So it's the most important asset that I think people can acquire that's for the people, because the banks can't just print more Bitcoins. The governments can't just manipulate it by changing the rules. The rules have been set and they cannot be changed. And that's the beauty of crypto. So we have to play these rules that the contract has been written for and has not been hacked yet. And if you want to understand, is Bitcoin hackable, just page through onto our channel and go to Is Bitcoin Hackable? We cover that in depth detail. And to our knowledge, it's just, even with quantum computing, it's not possible as of yet. All right. Or for the foreseeable future, you need trillions of computers to hack Bitcoin all at the same time.
Right. So one of the main benefits I think that a spot ETF will have on the market is it's just mainstream acceptance, right? Because when you get regulatory, a spot ETF means that basically we have regulatory approval of Bitcoin, right? They've now decided that spot Bitcoin is a regulated commodity. And it'll just give a nod of legitimacy to the asset class by all regulatory bodies then. And basically it really will boost the confidence of investors, traditional regular investors, but also institutional investors to really come in. So it really is a big deal. With an ETF, institutions such as mutual funds and retirement funds, all these pension plans out there, which they haven't been able to buy Bitcoin directly because, they're restricted in doing so. Now they're going to actually be able to buy spot Bitcoin through these ETFs. And that is a huge amount of money. You're talking trillions of dollars in these pension plans and retirement funds out there and mutual funds that all of a sudden can have some exposure to Bitcoin. And I think it's going to make a really big price impact.
Definitely. And regulatory oversight, it's a listed product, right? And now all the authorities in every district, in every county, in every parts of your province or country has now oversight on to say, are there any nefarious players? What's happening? Is any dodgy stuff happening? Now it can be looked on with the spotlight, and that improves the quality of transaction as well, because as they find out that this happened, they'll put in laws to regulate that and so forth, and we'll keep moving to a workable model. Right? But they cannot change the core product. That's the beauty of it. So they can change the surroundings around it. They can maybe increase the tax of Bitcoin, which I doubt because that'll stifle the growth. But it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the potential, the price impact, if you look at the gold chart, and you can look at where gold spot ETFs started being trading, and gold just rocketed. It basically went parabolic, as parabolic as gold has ever gone. Happened when they allowed spot ETFs on gold. And I really feel like the same kind of thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. I could see Bitcoin, getting a really big run here this cycle because of these ETFs.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually really going to level Bitcoin out too. Where gold has become a stable store of value. It always really has been, but you'll notice that it doesn't make these giant ups and downs, right? Not it's more of a stable store of value, and all that money invested in there is one of the reasons. So I kind of feel like it's it's going to do the same kind of thing here as we move forward with Bitcoin spot ETFs.
Definitely. All right, so I'm sure moms and dads out there are thinking, well, what is a simple strategy to follow that they can get into crypto right now and maximize their investment? So the first question was, am I too late? No, by all means, you're not too late. It's happening now. You're getting information from us, and we're getting information from other people, and we're sharing it, and we're saying, out of all the information that we have, we believe, all right, this is the game plan moving forward. Bitcoin halving happens in April. 6 months to 11 months, as we spoke last week, is the typical peak of that area. There's another factor in it which has never been factored in previous cycles is the spot ETF, which now is this massive wave. Think about the tsunami wave that's coming that could amplify the Bitcoin halving, all right? So typically, the run-up to Bitcoin halving is according to CZ from Binance, is never really fireworks. You're like, oh, the halving happened. Woo, I'm rich. No, it doesn't. He says it doesn't normally work like this. It's normally afterwards, right? But if you factor in the spot ETF and it gets approved in the next 4 days or before the end of the year, that's before April. Imagine what's going to happen before April. All shit is going to break loose. But this is not financial advice, guys. We're just sharing some insights. We are on the same side. There's hopium as well, right? But the more information we can piggyback from smarter people out there, from the macroeconomists, from the guys that have been in the space longer than us, the guys that trade, the guys that have this alpha information, the more we can extract from that, we just take it, we package it, and we experiment. We're not going to put the house or the kids on it. Maybe the kids, if they're naughty. But we're going to take a small portion and play with it and see how we can strategize for this up and coming. But Ryan, tell me, what is a good strategy moving into this next cycle? How do you play this? Because it's crazy. It's crazy times coming.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously it depends on your risk appetite, right? So if you're coming in, I mean, Bitcoin is king. Bitcoin is the end all be all. But there's basically cycles within the big Bitcoin cycle, right? So Bitcoin runs basically on this 4-year cycle, but there's lots of cycles within this as well. And I mean, basically the cryptocurrency market as a whole is always moving. And there's patterns. There's definitely general patterns to these movements. And by understanding these patterns, you can make more informed trading decisions. The movement of money within the whole crypto market, it's basically the most important pattern to watch, in my opinion. It can give you clues about basically which sectors of the market are likely to perform well in the short term. And I mean, that's kind of the big thing to look at, because Bitcoin cycles are important for the long-term investment strategy, right? And again, like I said, it runs on 4-year cycles. So if you're trading Bitcoin and you're not short-term trading, you're just, if you're cycle trading Bitcoin, you're making very few movements really in those 4 years. But that long-term investment strategy, it's not nearly as helpful in making short-term trading decisions. And so that's where, basically this whole cycle idea comes from, the mini cycles within the Bitcoin huge cycle. And, like I just said, Bitcoin is king. And the way this cycle kind of works is that fiat starts flowing into Bitcoin, right? I mean, people start getting excited about Bitcoin. It's all over the news. People that aren't into crypto start wanting to get into crypto. All your buddies start talking to you. Hey, what about this Bitcoin? I've heard about Bitcoin. How do I get into Bitcoin? And as soon as people start asking those things, that's when Bitcoin usually starts making its moves, right? Yeah. And when Bitcoin is making this big move up, most of the large and mid cap alts that have Bitcoin pairings. So, on the trading charts, basically, if Bitcoin is a pair with some of these large caps, like, Ethereum, Cardano, these big tokens out there, right? If Bitcoin has a pair with them, if Bitcoin's price is going up, well, then their price is going up too, relative to fiat, I should say. So, their prices relative to fiat are rising because their Bitcoin pairing is rising. And a lot of people don't understand that, but that's really what happens. You'll see Bitcoin move and the whole market's moving usually because Bitcoin is paired with this, and it drags the whole market up.
So Ryan,
however,
before you continue there, just so Bitcoin is okay. I want Bitcoin, so I phone the broker and I say buy Bitcoin, or I go to my local exchange and I say, cool, let me send some fiat to Bitcoin. I get Bitcoin, I save it in my wallet. But now you mentioned something called a pairing. I don't think our dads quite understand what a pairing is. Can you explain to us?
Okay, so when you're trading, let's say you want to buy ETH, right? If you want to buy Ethereum, you might do it with US dollar, or you might do it like you might buy Ethereum with a rand, right? Your South African rand. Well, so that's a pairing. So it's Ethereum to US dollar. So there's also Bitcoin pairings. So let's say you own Bitcoin, but you want to turn it into ETH. So that's a pairing. So it's ETH Bitcoin pairing. So Bitcoin being the standard currency there. So like if I'm buying with US dollar, that's my standard currency.
Okay.
So the price of Ethereum can raise basically if I'm buying Ethereum, I'm assuming it's going to raise against US dollar because I bought it with that, right?
Yeah.
If you're buying with Bitcoin, you're assuming Ethereum, if you're trading your Bitcoin for Ethereum, you're assuming Ethereum is going to perform better than Bitcoin.
Okay.
So that's at the beginning stage of all this, where Bitcoin, all this money's moving into Bitcoin. You might be seeing, the alts are probably moving up, but most likely they're very well underperforming compared to Bitcoin. So even though Bitcoin is helping to bring all these up, it's doing better. So you're most likely better off to be in Bitcoin in those early stages of the market movement. Yeah. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's plenty of alts that are going to run, irrespective of Bitcoin. But at the same time, in a general market sense, Bitcoin is probably outperforming most of the alts in that stage. And it's not until Bitcoin starts to slow down and consolidate that you'll start seeing Ethereum and some of these large alts start performing maybe better than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's when you really want to pay attention, because, as far as I'm concerned, my trading strategy, and again, this is me talking. This is not financial advice. I'm not telling anybody to do this. I'm just saying, it's a pretty general strategy there, that at the beginning, if you're putting money into Bitcoin and allowing your Bitcoin to go up, as more and more people are entering the market, once that starts to consolidate and fewer people are buying Bitcoin, that's when you'll start to see Ethereum start to outperform Bitcoin. And when you start seeing that's usually the indicator that the alt season is really about to start. Because when Ethereum crosses over and starts doing better than Bitcoin, that means that some of that money, that all that money that's been going into Bitcoin, the reason it's starting to consolidate is because some of that money is now coming out of Bitcoin and going into riskier assets. Yeah. And again, ETH is, to me, it's A1 and A2. It's Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. Yeah. So it's not that much riskier of an asset, but you're starting to see money go into ETH. Once ETH starts outperforming and really gets moving, then is when you're really priming for the real alt season.
And it kind of makes,
and these seasons can be scattered too. This isn't like one giant thing. These seasons, there can be multiple of these throughout the cycle.
And it makes sense. You do well at the end of the year in your business. You got some extra profits. All right, you keep enough aside, just your what you put in and a bit more, but then you take some out and you say, all right, now I've got a little bit. Where am I looking? What asset am I looking to invest to grow again? Right, and that's where they take it out of Bitcoin because they feel it's consolidated, meaning that there's not much going in it. It's reached this peak, or it's come down and say, okay, let me take some profit. But they don't want to put profits back into fiat. All right, they want to put it back into something else. Then the other coins or tokens start to get a bit of a rally, and that pumps up. And because they're so undervalued, there's generally bigger gains, right? So that way, that's why it seems like, oh, let me just put money in a shit coin. I was like, no, there's super risk in a shit coin, because even if you put it in a shit coin, it might go up within 45 minutes and further down next. That happens. You're like, oh, I made money, I've lost all my money, and then it never recovers. I'm getting PTSD from the previous cycle.
Absolutely.
So I think primarily, guys, if you're getting into crypto, to have a smile on your face in the next 12 to 24 months, just put your money in there and leave it in Bitcoin. That's it, right? Just leave it in there. All right. If you're feeling a bit speculative, leave at least 60 or 70% in there. Take a little bit out to play around and learn, because the only way you learn is by getting your fingers dirty and winning and losing and learning from your mistakes, as we are still here, learning from a lot of mistakes. But we're more confident now we're a little bit more prepared, not to say it's going to be all rosy. It's just, but we're a little bit more prepared, and therefore we can attack this next cycle, all right, a little bit more confidently. And that might be the difference between making some money or losing some money.
Absolutely.
So guys, alt season generally is when BTC slows down. Investors take some profit, right, and they start to move it to the altcoins. Altcoins, otherwise known as shit coins, or as they say, or lower capped, further down on the exchange. So if you take your list of 1 in 1,000, the further down ones, they start speculating in that space. So some of the low caps will start running at the same time as BTC is going up. But from a general perception, all right, it's generally as Bitcoin reaches its peak, they take out and then they fund the next leg, all right, in the hope of making and pumping those coins. And then they'll take their profits out and rinse and repeat. And then the cycle maybe continues again back to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin dipped during that period, because lots of people are saying, well, all of a sudden everyone's making money in alts and the FOMO goes crazy. So then, all right, Bitcoin, they take more and more out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin takes a bit of a tank. Then they're like, okay, cool, consolidation, put money back into Bitcoin. Bitcoin shoots back up, and then the bulls get behind Bitcoin, and then it might go to another tier.
Yeah, and that's really how that's how you get these multiple cycles within that one large, that 1 4-year cycle for Bitcoin. You've got all kinds of small cycles within that, because every time it's going back into Bitcoin, then it's again going to trickle back down into the large caps again. And really, where you start seeing the end of the full cycle is you'll start to see those large caps will be going parabolic again, right? And all the money's going back into the large caps and truly moving parabolic. Once those are starting to top out is when you start seeing a lot more of the money going into those higher risk tokens. So that's when they're going to come from those large caps. They're going to go into the mid caps, then into the really low caps. And that's when, you start seeing a lot of that real movement. And then you get to the absolute alt season euphoria, right? So after this has happened usually a couple times within the larger cycle, and you've got these absolute parabolic runs, and then you're starting to see all these low caps just go absolutely crazy. People are making 100, 200 X's on these silly coins.
We hope so.
You start seeing memes flying up everywhere, meme coins, and it's just absolutely crazy.
It's time.
That's when you got to start being really cautious, because that's basically, that's it, man. That's the peak of the market. And the smart money is on its way out.
Yeah.
And that's what causes the crash, right? The big crash at the end of the market. Smart money's already exited. All these reckless speculators are left, and they're playing musical chairs with their money. They're moving it from one to the other to the other to the other, and eventually music stops and pooh, the market crashes.
Yeah.
And when that market is crashing, you're gonna, a lot of money's going back into fiat. Now, again, if we've got these spot Bitcoin ETFs out there, and there's a lot of money in the spot Bitcoin ETFs, I'm not sure that I'm not saying Bitcoin's not going to crash. I know Bitcoin is going to go through its market cycles like it does, but I think Bitcoin is going to be a little more relatable to fiat this cycle than it has in the past.
Yeah.
If we've got all these ETFs out there and we've got a lot of big institutional money in, I think you could probably start seeing Bitcoin being a little more relatable to fiat, and some of this market crash when people are, all this money's coming out of the market, out of the altcoins. I think a lot of it is probably going to go back into Bitcoin as well as fiat, and really kind of stabilize things a little more, at least a little bit more, than they have in the past. And if you look at all the market cycles, it really has happened that way. Bitcoin hasn't gone as low as it did before, and it hasn't gone as high in the next peak of the market. So, I mean, as parabolic as it has before. So you're starting to see those market cycles flatten out. And I think over the years, and with real big institutional money in, you're going to see those flatten out a whole lot more.
Yeah.
As far as Bitcoin is concerned.
Particularly because they're in for the long haul. They're in for their pension funds. They're not in for the quick ups and downs of a small bull cycle or a big bull cycle. They're in for the long term. So if during that period of 10 years, the company starts to see, or the BlackRock starts to see, well, we haven't really been, performing very well. They wouldn't get to 10 years and say that. They'd start saying, how can we improve the price of Bitcoin? What can we do? More marketing, more advice, get more people in. So there's a lot of things they can do to get that price up, to make sure that when they cash out, their customers are happy. If their customers lose, they don't go to BlackRock. They go to the competitor, because the competitor's smarter. So which is good for Bitcoin, because it stabilizes the price, because they have to kind of have these little dips. Right now in Bitcoin, what's the highest? 60, 70% there, Ryan? Dips? 90% dips?
Yeah. I mean, it can. I think probably on average, those are getting smaller. So probably, 60, 70% dips, and probably.
And those will get smaller as more money comes in.
Right.
Well, that's the hope. All right, guys, some important points just to take note. All right, the length of the phase of each cycle vary, right? So it kind of feels like in a washing machine and someone's pushing those buttons. You're like, I'm in a spin cycle. I'm going around. Oh, this is good. And then all of a sudden it's a shake and hot water. You're like, what is that? It's really that crazy. And also, guys, money flows don't just happen on one level. There's a primary, there's a secondary, there are minor cycles, even an hourly chart, right? So it's not just, like literally phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. You got to be prepared, and that's why you got to do your homework and your research, because you can identify these are characteristics of this phase. Okay, this is how I should kind of play this, and then I'm in that. Yes, it's definitely the cycle. All right, you might get it wrong, but you can pivot nicely. And then narratives, guys. So AI technology is the narrative. Gaming is the narrative, right? Understand it. Bitcoin is the narrative. Those three things, right? There might be a few other smaller ones, but those three things are hot, hot, hot. So where does money flow? It flows into the narrative. What narrative are we talking right now? It's Bitcoin. It's not gaming. It's a little bit of AI, but it's Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. So where's the money going to flow? Bitcoin. Right, and that'll change, and that'll think us. So those three cycles. So the big money flows into the narratives, and then the sheep follow. Right. So just be aware of that, and then you can make sure that you have a strategy to say, all right, if I'm going to speculate on a alt/shitcoin in gaming or AI, what are the hot projects? Who are the founders? Do your homework, because your chances of success are far better than going for some poker app because you love poker. All right. So that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, basically to summarize this, this strategy of market flow trading, I mean, basically you're looking at Bitcoin at first, and then you're looking for altcoins that are paired with Bitcoin on large and liquid markets. You want to make sure there's enough liquidity there that, that they have room to grow. And basically they're going to move up as Bitcoin moves up. Then when Bitcoin starts to slow down, you're going to start moving into all of those large caps, the Ethereums, the ADAs and all those. So when Ethereum starts to outperform Bitcoin and these others, that's your indication. It's time to start, looking at some of these. And you mentioned narratives, you're looking for maybe whatever the play is there. Whatever that narrative is. Once ETH starts outperforming, then you're looking for, what's the next one that started outperforming? And, and you're looking to go in there. once those large caps start slowing down, and a lot of that money then starts moving into the mid and the low caps, and the mid and the low caps kind of tend to move about the same. They tend to move with each other. So once the large caps are starting to slow down a little bit and you're starting to see some more risk taking, you're going to see the mid and the lows kind of really start going together. And of course, the lower the market capitalization, the more risk you're probably finding within those. And then basically, you just got to be cautious when this alt season starts really hitting that euphoria. When euphoria is at its peak and when everybody's going crazy and all the memes are flowing, that's when, smart money is going to start exiting. So you should be making your exit strategy at that point if you haven't already. And then, if you haven't done it already, before that crash comes, get your money back into Bitcoin and fiat, and be happy to be there with hopefully with a lot of gains. Yeah. Again, not financial advice, but that's kind of just a basic strategy to play the money flow cycle.
And you'll start to see that it hasn't in a while, but the greed index, right? There's actually an index for greed. Like, money's flowing in here. It's at its all-time red zone. Then it's coming back down. So you'll start to hear a lot of the greed index. Maybe go Google the greed index. You'll start to see. If you're in that red zone, you're like, yes, it could go up another 10x. Like, okay, but it could go down another 40. Right? So don't be scared to take money out. Don't be scared to cut your losses. There's always another day, right? When your money goes to zero or below zero, the game is over, right? You can't play anymore. You can't make more money when you don't have nothing because you've lost it. So rather take out your profits and then be wise about it. Keep banking it. Keep filling up the Bitcoin coffers, right? Take a percentage of profits, no matter what, put it into a Bitcoin and Ethereum, all right, and play with the small portion of your profits. And make that money babies, and then keep pumping back into Bitcoin. So your Bitcoin's growing. Bitcoin's going to grow over the next, say, 10 years. So you got your safety box over there. You're playing with the table's money because that's the money you've made, right? So that's what you need to do. Play with the table's money, not your own.
Absolutely.
All right. Ryan, some additional tips that you can perhaps share with our dads?
Yeah, sure. Pay attention to the money flow, right? Pay attention, just as we were just saying, how the money flows between all the different alts. Watch for those narratives. If a narrative is performing well, take a look at positioning yourself in similar tokens, right? So if the gaming narrative, if you start seeing one of the big gaming tokens start flying, look to position yourself within some other stuff in the gaming sector. That's, kind of the way these things move, because if it's the narrative is starting, you want to try to jump into those undervalued, but good fundamental, good bullish tokens that are, undervalued, and you can get in low before they make their run. So that's kind of, it's a good strategy to just kind of to follow those narratives throughout the market. And then, the biggest thing, don't ever try to time the market perfectly. That's trying to time the market is usually how people lose a lot of money. Yeah. Just focus on following the money flows, investing in the altcoins that have the strongest narratives, and taking profits. If you're in this, if you're trading crypto, I don't think you're doing it just for fun. You're trading to make profits, right? So if you're trading and you've made a big profit, take your profits. That's the biggest probably lesson that I could give to anybody that's just new coming in, because people come in and they get married to these coins, right? They start loving a particular project, and they'll invest in it. They'll watch it go all the way up, and then they'll just hold on to it because they can't imagine selling that, right? They'll just hold on to it all the way back down to the bottom. Listen, if you want to really support that project, then sure, keep some of their tokens, stay with them. You're really working within that project, and maybe that's your objective for that particular token. But if your objective was to make money, you need to remember that, and you can't get stuck in a token. If your objective was to make money and that token flew up, take your profits out. Maybe take your profits and just leave your initial in there for the long term. But if that's your objective, if your objective is to make money in the market, you've got to remember to take your profits, and take it when you're profitable. Don't look at selling because you're coming down now. The best thing you can do for a project even is to sell on those big green candles. When it's going way up, that's when you take some profits. Don't be a jerk and totally dump on them. But at the same time, if a project's going way up, some of these small caps, take your profits while it's going up. Take them a little bit at a time on the way up. DCA out maybe just the same way you DCA'd in, and that way you're not selling on the big red candles and causing a further dump on that particular token. So, best advice I could give anyway. And again, not financial advice, just best advice I could give for, just getting your feet wet in the market.
Some best advice from crypto dad Ryan, who's been in this market for some time and has got some battle scars. So we both got battle scars, but I think he's got a little bit more because he's been in it longer. Right. And this is why we have a channel like this, so we can learn and grow together and get some more people that can educate us better, so we make less mistakes. You have to make mistakes. That's the only way you learn, and that's the only way you push forward. Life is this big playing ground where you scrape your knee, you get up, there's a bit of blood, and you go forward, right? In cryptos, there's no difference, but you don't want to lose a leg. If you're new to crypto and you leverage trade, you're going to lose a leg, you're going to lose an arm, and someone's going to pick it up and beat you with it. That's how bad leverage trading is, right? If you're more experienced in it and you've done some courses, then okay, you're mitigating a bit of risk. But that's probably my advice. Don't leverage trade if you've got no clue what you're doing and you don't understand the charts and you've got no experience. Rather find a friend that's doing it, that is experienced, and learn from them, rather than just going out and throwing your money in the toilet and flushing it. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So that's our show on ETFs. What's happening with Bitcoin? What's happening in the market? We are excited. We've been in every single day. We talk about crypto. Every single day we're learning about crypto, and it's like, what is it? 2 years now, right? 2 and a bit years. It's like now we're starting to feel that, that bubbling. It feels like the floor is heating up, right? The floor is lava. So eventually we're going to be dancing and hopping and skipping, and we look forward to that, but we are preparing now for it. And that's why these episodes will get a little bit more strategic as we get into the bull market and guide you guys through it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys. And now that time of the show where Dad's got jokes. Ryan, have you got a joke for us? Is it world class?
Oh, I do. It's perfect for this time of year. Halloween is right around the corner.
Is that the time? Is that the time in America where all the girls just wear nothing, like half nothing, just skimpy outfits?
Halloween? Oh yeah, sure. I guess that's one of the perks of Halloween. It's like every costume is it's not a nurse, it's a slutty nurse, right?
Slutty nurse, yeah. It's Halloween, it's allowed. Fishnet stockings. When I was over in America, I'm like, shoo. I normally see this on. Never mind.
Do you not have a Halloween type thing in South Africa?
No, we got real bullets. We dodge. Everyone's scary. Yeah. No. Gated communities do share it, but depending if your neighborhood is safe in that. Not to say South Africa is bad.
Gotcha. Well, in honor of Halloween,
yes.
What is a vegetarian zombie's favorite food? Grains.
Can we put that one on pause, and then can we get you in a costume next week?
Maybe.
We've got a role play here, Ryan. Come on now.
I can't imagine what a vegetarian zombie looks like. I doubt it's very scary.
With fishnet stockings. Very scary. Like hair poking through the fishnet. All right, Ryan. A pair of cows are walking into a field. One says, "Have you heard about the mad cow disease that's going around?" "Yeah," the other cow says. "Makes me glad I'm a penguin." Cow's gone crazy.
I like that one a lot. I'm stealing it.
No problem. I want royalties, please, when you become famous one day. Shit. All right, guys. And don't forget, guys, our Dad Sacks is live. We're growing nicely. The projects we're about to launch, we can't tell you exactly what's going to happen just yet. That's for next week. We're just finalizing the dates with the founders. But you can go onto our Telegram chat or click the link in the Telegram chat, and all the links are below, of course. You go into our competition, you follow a few more points. There's gamification. Some guys are really taking it to heart and are really pushing on the leaderboard. Understand, yes, there's a prize for the top bunch as well, but there are so many different prizes. We're gamifying everything, right? There's monthly prizes, there's leaderboard prizes, there's specific prizes for each project. End of the day, we just want to get and we want to give. We want to give to you guys, right? Because you guys are going to help us grow. We're going to get better deals, and this relationship is perfect, right? And we want to build a great dad's community, not just a bunch of bots in the channel. So if you have a friend as well, bring them on board, show them a few of our shows, and get them hooked onto crypto as well. And let's take them along for the journey and come chat to us in the group.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the quests on there. Don't forget that once you get signed up, don't tell your friends about it till you get yourself signed up. Because once you get signed up, that's one of the quests. You can invite your friends and earn a lot of experience points that way. So, yeah, definitely get in there, sign up early, and, get in and be one of our first OG dads out there.
That's right.
It'd be great to have you.
That's right. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Have an awesome week ahead. Go Boca. We're going to beat the New Zealanders on Saturday. I might actually just do a little clip there. Set it off. Oh, go Boca. It's going to be super fun. Anyway, guys, take care.
Great time.
Ciao. Bye.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.